This is the full audiobook of the Song of the Goddess, the Devi Gita, Spiritual Counsel of the Great Goddess, translated by Mackenzie Brown in 2002. Introduction. The Great Goddess and Her Song. The Devi Gita, or Song of the Goddess, presents a grand vision of the universe created, pervaded, and protected by a supremely powerful, all-knowing, and wholly compassionate divine female. She is Mahadevi, the Great Goddess, wielding all power Shakti in the universe. Yet power is not just an attribute of the goddess, she is power or Shakti itself. To her most devoted followers, known as Shaktas, worshippers of the supreme Shakti, she is the auspicious mother of the world, ever anxious for the well-being of her children. Unlike the ferocious Hindu goddesses such as Kali and Durga, the world mother of the Devi Gita is beautiful and benign, although some of her lesser manifestations may take on terrifying forms. And unlike other beneficent female divinities such as Parvati and Lakshmi, she is subject to no male consort. Subject to none, she is the Shakti of all. This grand vision is proclaimed in the spiritual counsel of the great goddess to her special devotee, the mountain king Himalaya, in the midst of an assembly of gods. While the gods, having just lost their celestial kingdoms to the demon Taraka, take refuge in the goddess to regain their worldly fortunes, Himalaya, the model of supreme devotion, seeks spiritual insight for its own sake. He queries the Devi about her true nature and her relation to the world, as well as the means to attain the final goal of human existence, union with the goddess herself. Since the world mother is anxious to satisfy the desires of all her children, she heeds the self-interested pleas of the gods, as well as the more mystical yearnings of the mountain king. She provides both mundane pleasures and final liberation, or bhakti and mukti in traditional Hindu terms. She turns aside no one who comes to her with a devoted heart. Her revelations to Himalaya and the gods include not only instruction in cosmology and the several disciplines of yoga, but also the gracious disclosure, darshan, of her own divine forms. She first appears to the gods in Himalaya in a blinding flash of light that represents the Absolute or Brahman, whose nature is infinite being, pure consciousness, and everlasting bliss. Since this brilliant manifestation of the infinite spirit is beyond the comprehension of mortal beings, including the gods, the goddess soon emerges from the lustrous orb of Loxaris, four-armed and feminine Bhuvaneshwari, ruler of the universe. Her four hands, holding a noose in gold and gesturing her beneficence and assurance of safety, symbolize her eagerness to protect and to bestow worldly and spiritual gifts upon Vaikapata devotees. Her third eye points to her wisdom and constant vigilance for the welfare of her children. The appearance of Bhuvaneshwari fully fits the expectations of what the compassionate world mother should look like, and her sudden emergence soothes the disturbance the times of her devotees. Later in the Devi Gita, while expounding on her essential unity with the universe, the goddess manifests her more terrifying masculine form as the world-devouring cosmic body known as the Viraj, the irradiant, composed of the diverse regions and elements of the material realm. This horrific manifestation of the goddess is harder to reconcile with her more benign mode as nurturing world mother, thus causing the gods to swoon. Yet the Viraj emphasizes her total sovereignty over the world cycle in all its phases. Even the destruction of the cosmos is at the pleasure of the goddess. The disclosures of these two divine forms, Bhuvaneshwari and the Viraj, suggestive of her androgynous nature, reinforce in dramatic fashion the spiritual teachings of the goddess. Chapter 1. The appearance of the great goddess before the mountain king Himalaya and the gods. Janamejaya spoke. You said earlier that the supreme lustrous power manifested itself on the crest of Himalaya, the mountain lord. This you mentioned only in passing. Now explain it to me in full detail. What thoughtful person would ever tire of drinking the nectarine tales of Shakti? Death comes even to those who drink divine ambrosia, but not to one who hears this act of hers. Vyasa spoke. You are blessed and completely fulfilled. You have been taught by those of great heart. And you are fortunate, for you possess true devotion to the goddess. Hear, O king, this ancient tale, when the body of Sati was consumed in flames. The bewildered Shiva wandered about, falling here and there motionless on the ground. He was unaware of the manifest world, his mind being fully absorbed. Regaining his self-composure, he passed the time contemplating the true form of the goddess. Meanwhile, the three-tiered universe, with all that is mobile and immobile, lost its auspicious charm. When the entire world with its oceans, continents, and mountains was bereft of energy, joy shriveled up in the heart of each and every being. All peoples were despondent, their careworn spirits exhausted. Then, ever drowning in a sea of misery, they were consumed by disease. The planets retrogressed ominously. The fortunes of the gods declined. Kings, too, suffered misfortune due to material and spiritual forces set in motion by the death of Sati. Now at that time arose a great demon, Taraka by name. The fiend became master of the three-tiered universe after procuring from Brahma this boon. Only a legitimate son of Shiva shall be your slayer. With his death thus fixed by Brahma, the great demon, realizing no lawful son of Shiva existed, roared and rejoiced. And all the gods, attacked by Taraka and driven from their own homes, they lived in a state of persistent anxiety due to the absence of any legitimate son of Shiva. The gods thought, Shiva has no wife, how shall he engender a son? How can we prosper, deprived of good fortune? Vyasa continued. Thus afflicted with worry, all the gods journeyed to Vishnu's heaven. Taking counsel with him in private, he then explained their proper recourse. Vishnu spoke. So why you all so worried? For the auspicious goddess is a wish-fulfilling tree. Dwelling in her jeweled island paradise as ruler of the universe, she is ever attentive. And she neglects us now only because of our misbehavior. Such chastisement by the World Mother is simply for our own instruction. As a mother feels no lack of compassion whether indulging or chastening her child, just so the World Mother feels when overseeing our virtues and vices. A son transgresses the limits of proper conduct at every step. Who in the world forgives him except his mother? And therefore go for refuge to the Supreme Mother without delay. Sincere hearts, she will accomplish what you want. Vyasa continued, thus enjoining all the gods and accompanied by his wife, the great Vishnu. As chief of the gods, set forth at once with his fellow lords. He came to the great rocky crag, Himalaya, lord of mountains. And all the gods commenced the preliminary acts of worship. They then performed the mother's sacrifice, knowing well her ceremonial rites.
All the gods hastened to perform her ritual observances, including the third-day rites, O king.
Some of the gods were fully absorbed in meditation, others were focused on her name, with some concentrated on her hymn, while others were intent on reciting her names. Some were devoted to chanting mantras or practicing severe austerities.
Some were absorbed in mental sacrifices, and others installed mystic powers in their bodies.
Unwearied, they worshipped the Supreme Shakti with the mantra known as Hrileka. Many years thus passed away, O Janamejaya. Suddenly, on the 9th lunar day in the month of Chaitra on a Friday, that lustrous power revealed in Scripture appeared before the gods, praised on all sides by the 4 Vedas incarnate. It blazed like 10 million suns, yet soothed like 10 million moons, flashing like 10 million streaks of lightning tinged with red. That supreme lustrous power
shone forth unencompassed above, across, and in the middle.
Without beginning or end, it had no body, no hands, no other limbs. Nor did it have a woman's form, a man's form, nor the two combined. The dazzling brilliance blinded the eyes of the gods, O king. When again their vision returned, the gods beheld that light appearing now in the form of a woman, charming and delightful. She was exceedingly beautiful of limb, a maiden in the freshness of youth. Her full, upraised breasts put to shame the swelling buds of the lotus. Her girdle and anklets jingled with clusters of tinkling bells. She was adorned with a necklace, armlets, and bracelets of gold. Her throat resplendent with a chain of priceless gems. The locks on her cheeks shimmered like black bees swarming on delicate kataka blooms. An exquisite line of down on her midriff enhanced the charm of her shapely hips. She was chewing spice betel mixed with bits of mint camphor. Pendant earrings of shining gold graced her lotus face. Above long eyebrows her forehead shone with an image of the crescent moon. Her eyes were red lotus petals, her nose dignified, her lips like nectar. Her teeth resembled buds of white jasmine, a string of pearls adorned her neck. Her crescent-shaped crown sparkled with jewels, she was bedecked with ornaments shining like new moons. A garland of jasmine flowers brightened her luxuriant hair.
Her forehead sported a saffron dot, while her 3 eyes reflected her playful mood.
3-eyed and 4-armed, she held a noose and goad while gesturing her beneficence and assurance of safety. She was dressed in red and appeared lustrous like blooms of the pomegranate. Richly adorned in garments all suited for love, she was worshipped by all the gods. Satisfying all desires, she is the mother of all, the deluder of all. The mother's kindly face, so gracious, displayed a tender smile on the lotus mouth. This embodiment of unfeigned compassion the gods beheld in their presence. Seeing her, the embodiment of compassion, the entire host of gods bowed low, unable to speak, choking on tears in silence. Struggling to regain their composure, their necks bending in devotion. Their eyes brimming with tears of loving joy, they glorified the World Mother with hymns. The gods spoke. Hail to the goddess, to the great goddess, to the auspicious one, always hail. Hail to nature, to the propitious one, we humble ourselves attentively before her. To her, the color of fire, blazing like the sun with ascetic power, and who is worshipped for attaining the fruits of action. To her, the goddess Durga, I go for refuge. Hail to that raft of swift crossing. The gods created the goddess speech, whom animals of all sorts speak. This speech is pleasing to us, this cow yielding food and strength. She is well praised, may she come to us. To Kalara tree praised by Brahma, to Vaishnavi, to the mother of Skanda. To Sarasvati, to Aditi, the daughter of Daksha, we bow, to the pure auspicious one. We know you as Mahalakshmi, we meditate on you as the Shakti of all. May the goddess inspire that knowledge and meditation of ours. Hail to her in the form of the cosmic body, hail to her in the form of the cosmic soul. Hail to her in the unmanifest state, hail to her in the form of the glorious Brahman. Through her power of ignorance she shows herself as the world, like a rope appearing as a serpent wreath and the like. Through her power of knowledge she dissolves the world back into herself. We glorify her, ruler of the universe. We glorify her whose essence is pure consciousness, represented by the word Tat, and whose nature is undiminished bliss. It is she to whom the Vedas refer as their goal, transcending the five sheaths, witness of the three states of consciousness. She is also in essence the individual soul, represented by the word Tivam. Hail to her in the form of the syllable Om, hail to her embodied in the syllable Hrim. To her composed of manifold mantras, that is to you the compassionate goddess, hail, hail. Vyasa continued. So thus praised by the gods, she who dwells in the jeweled island then answered in the sweet, joyous tones of the cuckoo. The blessed goddess spoke. O wise gods, explain the reason that brings you together here. I am ever the bestower of boons, a wish-yielding tree to devotees. You shine with devotion, so why are you anxious when I stand nearby? I rescue my devotees from the troubled ocean of samsara. Know this promise of mine to be sincere, O best of gods. Vyasa continued. Hearing these words infused with loving joy, the gods were satisfied in their hearts. Freed from fear, the immortals described their own ordeal, O king. The gods spoke. Nothing here in the three worlds is unknown to you, who are omniscient, the incarnate witness of all, O supreme ruler. The demon chief Taraka torments us day and night. His death shall come only at the hands of Shiva's son, so has Brahma arranged, O auspicious one. But as you know, great ruler, Shiva has no wife. What can ignorant beings reveal to one who is omniscient? Such is our situation in brief. You can infer the rest, O mother. May we always show unswerving devotion to your lotus feet. This is our foremost wish. We also pray that you will assume a body. Vyasa continued. The supreme ruler listened to these words of theirs and gave reply. The goddess spoke. My potency, who is Gauri, will be born to Himalaya. She will be given in marriage to Shiva, and will furnish what you need. That you shall be devoted to my lotus feet due to your earnest desire. Himalaya, moved by intense devotion, truly worships me in his heart. Thus I consider it a pleasure to take birth in his house. Vyasa spoke. Hearing her exceedingly kind words, Himalaya on his part replied to the great sovereign queen, his eyes and throat congested with tears. Himalaya spoke. You greatly ennoble whomever you wish to favor. For who am I, so dull and motionless, compared to you who embody infinite being and consciousness? That I should become your father in the course of hundreds of births is astonishing, O faultless one. Even with all the merits gained by performing horse sacrifices and other religious penances. Now I shall be renowned, for all the world will think, the world mother has become the daughter of that Himalaya, wonder of wonders. How blessed and fortunate is he. She whose womb contains tens of millions of worlds has been born as his daughter, who on earth is his equal. I know not what heavenly realm has been prepared for my ancestors to rest in, so blessed are they to have one such as myself born in their family. As you have already granted me one favor through your loving compassion, would you also please describe for me your true nature as explained in all the Upanishads, and further describe the paths of both yoga and knowledge combined with devotion as approved by scripture? Explain these, supreme ruler, so that I may become one with you. Vyasa spoke. Hearing these words of Himalaya, and with her lotus face kindly disposed, the mother undertook to reveal the mystic teachings hidden in scripture. Chapter 2. The goddess is the supreme cause of creation. The goddess spoke. May all the gods attend to what I have to say. By merely hearing these words of mine, one attains my essential nature, I alone existed in the beginning, there was nothing else at all, O Mountain King. My true self is known as pure consciousness, the highest intelligence, the one supreme Brahman. It is beyond reason, indescribable, incomparable, incorruptible. From out of itself evolves a certain power renowned as Maya. Neither real nor unreal is this Maya, nor is it both, for that would be incongruous. Lacking such characteristics, this indefinite entity has always subsisted. As heat inheres in fire, as brilliance in the sun, as cool light in the moon, just so this Maya inheres firmly in me. Into that Maya the actions of souls, the souls themselves, and the ages eventually dissolve without distinctions, as worldly concerns disappear in deep sleep. By uniting with this inherent power of mine, I become the cosmic seed. By obscuring me its own basis, this power is prone to defects. Through its association with consciousness, Maya is called the efficient cause of the world. Through its evolution into the visible realm, it is said to be the material cause. Some call this Maya the power of austerity, others call it darkness, still others dullness. Or knowledge, illusion, matter, nature, energy, or the unborn. Those versed in Shaiva works call it intelligence, while the Vedantins call it ignorance. Such are its various names found in the Vedic and other sacred texts. Hence, Maya is something we can perceive. It has the nature of non-conscious matter, since knowledge destroys it. It is not truly existent. Consciousness is not something we can perceive. What we perceive is indeed non-conscious. Consciousness is self-luminous, nothing else illuminates it. It does not even illuminate a self, for that would lead to the fallacy of infinite regress. As an agent and the object acted upon are distinct entities, so consciousness itself, like a lamp, while shining brightly, illuminates what is other than itself. Know this, O mountain. For thus have I demonstrated that consciousness, belonging to my own nature, is eternal. The visible world appears and disappears constantly in the various states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Pure consciousness never experiences such fluctuation. Even if this consciousness itself became an object of perception, then the witness of that perception would abide as the real pure consciousness as before. And so those versed in religious treatises regarding the real declare consciousness to be eternal. Its nature is bliss, for it is the object of supreme love. The feeling "let me not cease to be, let me exist forever" is rooted in love for the self. Certainly there is no actual relation between me and all else, since all else is false. Therefore I am regarded truly as an undivided whole. And that consciousness is not an attribute of the self, for then the self would be like an object. In consciousness no possible trace of the object state can be found. And so consciousness also has no attributes. Consciousness is not a quality separable from consciousness itself. Therefore the self in essence is consciousness, and bliss as well, always. It is the real and complete, beyond all relation and free from the illusion of duality. This self, however, by its own power of Maya conjoined with desires, actions, and the like, through the influence of prior experience ripening in time in accord with the law of karma, and by confounding the primal elements, being desirous to create, begins to bring forth. The resulting creation, devoid of intelligence, will be further described to you, O Mountain King. So this extraordinary form of mind, which I have mentioned, is unevolved and unmanifest, yet becomes segmented through the power of Maya. All the religious treatises declare it to be the cause of all causes, the primal substance behind the elements, and as having the form of being, consciousness, bliss. It is the condensation of all karma. It is the seed of will, knowledge, and action. It is expressed in the mantra Hrim. It is the primal principle, so it is said. Out of that primal substance arose ether, endowed with the subtle quality of sound. Then arose air, characterized by the quality of touch, followed by fire, characterized by visible form. Next arose water, characterized by taste, then earth, characterized by smell. Ether has the single quality of sound. Air is endowed with touch and sound. Fire has the qualities of sound, touch, and visible form. According to the wise, water has the 4 qualities of sound, touch, visible form, and taste, so they say. Earth has the 5 qualities of sound, touch, visible form, taste, and smell. From those subtle elements came into being the great cosmic thread, which is called the subtle body. It is proclaimed as all-pervading. This is the subtle body of the self. The unmanifest is the causal body, which I mentioned earlier. In that lies the world seed, from which evolves the subtle body. From that, by the process of 5-fold generation, the gross elements, 5 in number, arise. I shall now describe this process. Each of those elements previously mentioned shall be divided in half. 1/2 part of each element shall be divided into 4, O mountain. By joining the undivided half of each element with one of the quartered fractions from each of the other 4, each element becomes 5-fold, and they produce the cosmic body, or gross body, of the self. From the aspects of lucidity residing in the 5 elements arise hearing and the other organs of sense, each from a single element, O king, but from the lucid aspects of all the elements mixed together arises the internal organ, single, yet fourfold by reason of its different functions. So when it wills or wavers, it is known as mind. So when it knows decisively without doubts, it is called intellect. When it remembers, it is known as recollection. So when it functions to assert the sense of I, it becomes the principle of egocy. From the active aspects of the elements arise in order the organs of action. It each from a single element, but from the active aspects of all the elements mixed together comes the 5-fold breath. The upward breath resides in the heart, the downward breath in the bowels, the middle breath in the navel, the ascending breath in the throat, and the diffused breath throughout the body. The 5 organs of knowledge, the 5 organs of action, and the 5 breaths, along with the mind accompanied by the intellect. These constitute the subtle body, that is, my own rarefied form. To therein is the principle called nature, O king. It is twofold according to tradition. To one aspect, characterized by lucidity, is Maya. The other aspect, mixed with all the qualities of nature, is nescience. That aspect which clearly reflects its own substrate is known as Maya. In that Maya appears the reflected image of the universal ruler. He is called the Supreme Lord. He is aware of his own substrate. It is all-knowing and all-doing, the cause of all kindness. But in nescience, the reflected image is partially obscured, O mountain king. It is then known as the individual soul, and as the abode of all suffering. Now these two here, the Lord and the soul, are said to have 3 bodies through the power of nescience. By identifying themselves with the 3 bodies, they also come to have 3 names. The soul as the causal body is named the intelligent, as the subtle body, the brilliant, and as the gross body, the all. Thus are its 3 divisions known. In like manner, the Lord is known by the terms the Lord, the cosmic soul, and the cosmic body. The soul is regarded as the individuated form, the Lord as the aggregated. That universal Lord himself, through his desire to favor the soul, creates the manifold world anew with its store of various enjoyments. The Lord is ever sent forth by my power, having been conceived in me, O king. Chapter 3. The goddess reveals her cosmic body, the Viraj. The goddess spoke. I imagine into being the whole world, moving and unmoving, through the power of my Maya. Yet that same Maya is not separate from me. This is the highest truth. From the practical point of view, Maya is regarded as self-evident. In reality, however, it does not exist. Only the Supreme exists in an absolute sense. So Kultivar, I as Maya create the whole world and then enter within it, accompanied by ignorance, actions, and the like, and preceded by the vital breath, O mountain. How else could souls be reborn into future lives? They take on various births in accord with modifications of Maya. Modified by apparent limitations, I become differentiated into parts like space in different jars. The sun constantly illumines all objects, however high or low, yet is not thereby stained. Just so am I never stained by faults. Ordinary people superimpose on me the active agency of the intellect and the like. The self is acting, say the bewildered, not the wise. Modifications of ignorance and modifications of Maya. Divide the soul and the Lord into parts, respectively. It is all contrived by Maya. The contrived separation of the space within jars from space in general is like the contrived division between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. Just as the multiple manifestations of the soul are due to ignorance, not to the soul's inherent nature, just so are the multiple manifestations of the Lord due to Maya, not to his innate essence. Creating divisions through the imagined distinctions of various bodies with all their senses. To ignorance is the cause of the differentiation of souls, no other cause is revealed. Creating divisions through the imagined distinctions of the material qualities, O mountain. Maya is the cause of the differentiation of the Supreme Lord into parts and nothing else. In me this whole world is woven in all directions, O mountain. I am the Lord and the cosmic soul. I am myself the cosmic body. I am Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, as well as Gauri, Brahmi, and Vaishnavi. I am the sun and the stars, and I am the Lord of the stars. I am the various species of beasts and birds. I am also the outcast and thief. I am the evildoer and the wicked deed. I am the righteous person and the virtuous deed. I am certainly female and male and asexual as well. and whatever thing anywhere you see or hear. That entire thing I pervade, ever abiding inside it and outside. There is nothing at all, moving or unmoving, that is devoid of me. For if it were, it would be a nonentity, like the son of a barren woman. Just as a single rope may appear variously as a serpent or wreath, so also I may appear in the form of the Lord and the like. There is no doubt in this matter. And the world cannot appear without an underlying basis. Accordingly, the world comes to be only through my own being, and in no other way. Himalaya said, Ruler of the gods, since you have mentioned your aggregated cosmic form, I yearn to see it, O goddess, if you would favor me. Vyasa said, All. Hearing his request, all the gods, including Vishnu, rejoiced with gladdened hearts, praising Himalaya's words. Then the auspicious goddess, who was a wish-granting cow to her devotees, knowing the minds of the gods, revealed her own cosmic form, satisfying the desire of her devotees. They beheld that cosmic body of the great goddess, that form beyond all other forms. The sky is its head, the moon and sun its eyes. The cardinal directions are its ears, the Vedas its speech, the wind its breath, so it is proclaimed. The universe is its heart, they say, the earth its loins, so it is thought. The atmosphere is its navel, the stellar sphere its breast. The world known as Maharloka is the neck, Janaloka its face, so it is thought. Taparloka is the forehead, situated beneath Satyaloka. Indra and the gods are its arms, sound is the hearing of this great ruler. The twin Ashvins are its nostrils, scent its smelling, so think the wise. Fire is proclaimed as its mouth, day and night as its two eyelids. The abode of Brahma is the play of its eyebrows, the waters are proclaimed as its palate. Taste is proclaimed as its tongue, the god of death as its fangs. The various affections are its teeth, Maya is proclaimed as its laughter. Creation is its casting of sidelong glances, modesty is the upper lip of this great ruler. Greed is its lower lip, the way of unrighteousness its back. And Prajapati, the creator on earth, is its penis. The ocean is the belly, the mountains the bones of the goddess, the great ruler. The rivers are proclaimed as her arteries, trees as her hair. Childhood, youth, and old age are her excellent gates. Clouds are her hair, the two twilights the garments of the Lord. O king, the moon is the mind of the holy world mother. Vishnu is her power of discernment, and Shiva is the seat of her thoughts and feelings, so it is thought. Horses and all the various species abide in the hips and loins of the Lord. The great lower worlds, such as Itala, are situated below her buttocks. Such was the massive form that the best of gods beheld. So with its thousands of blazing rays licking with its tongue, producing horrible crunching sounds with its teeth, spewing fire from its eyes, holding various weapons, heroic in stature, making musha Brahmins and warriors for its food. It had 1,000 heads and eyes, and 1,000 feet as well, resembling millions of suns, radiant like millions of lightning streaks. That fearful, horrific form, terrifying to heart and eye. All the gods beheld and wailed, Woe unto us, woe! With trembling hearts, they swooned helplessly. Even the thought, this is the world mother, escaped them. Then the Vedas, stationed on the four sides of the great ruling goddess, with much effort awakened the unconscious gods from their swoon. Then the gods, regaining their senses, received the supreme Vedic revelation. Tears of loving joy filled the eyes of these immortals, while their throats tightened. They began to offer praise, even as their voices faltered through the tears. The gods spoke. Forgive our faults, O Mother, protect us who are wretched, as we are born of you. Remove your anger, O ruler of the gods, we have seen this form of yours and are frightened. How can we poor immortals here offer adequate praise to you? The extent of your power is unknown even to yourself. How can it be comprehended by us who are born afterward? Hail to you, ruler of the universe, hail to you, composed of the syllable Om. Hail to you, established in the whole of Vedanta, embodied in the syllable Hrim. To the source from which fire has arisen, to the source of the sun and moon. To the source of all plants, to that self of all, hail. And to the source from which the gods are born, as well as other celestial beings and birds. And animals and men, to that self of all, hail. The in-breath and out-breath, rice and barley, asceticism, faith and truth, self-restraint and sacred law, to the source of all these, hail, hail. To the source of the 7 breaths and flames, and of the 7 fuel sticks, and of the 7 oblations and worlds, to that self of all, hail. To the source from which issue the oceans, mountains, and rivers, To the source of all plants and their sap, hail, hail. To the source from which arise the sacrifice, the consecration, the sacrificial post, and the gifts. The verses, chants, and formulas, to that self of all, hail. Hail from in front and behind, hail to you on both sides. From below, from above, from the four directions to you in the greatest degree, O Mother, hail, hail. Withdraw, O ruler of the gods, this extraordinary form. Show us simply that exceedingly beautiful form of yours. Vyasa said, seeing the gods so frightened, the world mother, an ocean of compassion, withdrew her horrific form and revealed her beautiful aspect. She held a noose and goad while gesturing her beneficence and assurance of safety. Delicate was she in all her limbs. Her eyes overflowed with compassion as her lotus face gently smiled. When the gods beheld that beautiful form, their fears dissolved, and their minds attained peace. Inarticulate from joy, they bowed down in silence. Chapter 4, Instruction in the Yoga of Knowledge. The goddess spoke. How distant you are, so humble, from this form of mine, so magnificent. That out of affection for my devotees I have displayed such a form. Not by study of the Vedas, nor by yoga, charity, austerity, or sacrifice. Can you see this form in any way without my favor? Listen, O king, let us return to the original subject regarding the Supreme Self and how it becomes the individual soul. By combining with apparent limitations, the self seemingly assumes the role of an active agent and so on. Soul performs diverse acts, the single cause of virtue and vice. Thereby it attains birth in various wombs and experiences happiness and sorrow. Again, under their determining influence, ever intent on new actions of various sorts. It attains new bodies of various kinds and experiences further happiness and sorrow. Like a water wheel, this cycling never ceases. Ignorance alone is its root, from that springs desire, from that actions. Therefore a person should ever strive for the destruction of ignorance. For one's birth is fruitful when ignorance is destroyed. One thereby attains the ends of human existence and the state of being liberated while living. For wisdom alone is competent for the destruction of ignorance. Action born of ignorance is incompetent to destroy ignorance, since the two are not opposed, O mountain. So rather the hope that ignorance can be destroyed by action is futile. Useless are actions with their fruits, which humans crave again and again. From that arises passion, from that evil, from that great calamity. Therefore a person should acquire knowledge with all-out effort. That Scripture itself seems to enjoin the necessity of action, as when it mentions ever-performing actions here. But Scripture also states, from knowledge indeed comes emancipation, thus some conclude that the two should be conjoined. Action should be a complement of knowledge, as its benefactor. Others say that this is impossible, due to their opposition. The knot of the heart is loosened through knowledge. When the knot is tight, action arises. Coexistence of the two together is thus impossible, due to their opposition. Just as darkness and light cannot appear simultaneously. Therefore, high-minded one, all Vedic actions reach their end when the heart is purified, perform them with diligence, until tranquility, restraint, patience, dispassion, and goodness arise. Up to this point actions are fitting, but no further. And then renouncing worldly attachments, being self-restrained, one should resort to a guru, well-versed in the Veda and absorbed in Brahman, approaching with true devotion. One should listen to the Upanishads daily and with attention, reflecting constantly on the meaning of such great sayings as "you are that." The great saying "you are that" indicates the oneness of the soul and Brahman. When the identity is realized, one goes beyond fear and assumes my essential nature. First one should comprehend the meaning of the individual words, then the meaning of the sentence as a whole. Now the word that refers to I myself, O mountain, this is well proclaimed. While the word you refers certainly to the individual soul. The identity of the two is indicated by the word are, so say the wise. Due to the opposed nature of the two expressed reference, their identity may not seem possible. But that cause one must adopt the secondary meaning of the terms that and you as fixed in Scripture. Just pure consciousness is the secondary meaning implied by both terms. Their essential oneness is thereby established. Realizing their oneness by disregarding their non-essential differences, one transcends duality. In the same manner, the sentence "this is that Devadatta" uses the secondary meanings, so it is taught. When freed from the three bodies beginning with the gross, a person becomes absorbed in Brahman. The gross body arises from the fivefold compounded gross elements. It experiences the fruit of all its actions and is subject to old age and disease. In truth it is false, yet it appears real, being full of Maya. This is the gross limiting condition of my own self, O Mountain King. The union of the organs of knowledge and action, conjoined with the 5 breaths, and fused with the mind and intellect, produces the subtle body, this the wise discern. Arising from the uncompounded elements, this subtle body of the self is my second limiting condition, experiencing pleasure and pain. But without beginning and indefinable, ignorance is the third limiting condition. It is that body of the self which appears as causal in nature, O Mountain Lord. When these limiting conditions are dissolved, the self alone remains. The 5 sheaths ever reside within the 3 bodies. When the 5 sheaths are discarded, one attains the root that is Brahman. Described by such sayings as not this, not that, indicating my own essential form. That self is never born nor does it die. It did not come into existence, for nothing real comes into existence from nothing. It is unborn, eternal, everlasting, ancient. It is not slain when the body is slain. If the slayer believes I slay, if the slain believes I am slain, then neither understands that the self does not slay and cannot be slain. Smaller than an atom, greater than the greatest is the self dwelling in the heart of each being. The one who is free of desires, who is beyond sorrow, sees that self and its greatness through the grace of the Krishna Creator. Know the self as the owner of a chariot, and the body as the chariot. Know the intellect as the driver, and the mind as the reins. The senses are the horses, they say, the objects of sense their fields of forage. The self, united with the senses and mind, is an enjoyer, so say the wise. Whoever, on the one hand, lacks knowledge becomes mindless and ever impure. That person does not attain the highest goal, but continues in samsara. Whoever, on the other hand, has understanding becomes mindful and ever pure. That person attains the highest goal, from which there is no return. That person who uses understanding as the driver and who controls the reins of the mind arrives at the end of the journey, which is my own supreme state. Thus, through hearing about, reflecting upon, and ascertaining the self by the self, one should also, through intense meditation, realize that I am in essence the self. Before attaining the final absorption, one should contemplate within oneself the triad of letters, known as the sacred syllable of the goddess, for the sake of meditating on the 2 meanings of the mantra. The letter H is the gross body, the letter R, the subtle body. The letter I, the causal body, the whole sound rim is I myself as the transcendent fourth. In this manner, recognizing sequentially the triadic elements of the seed mantra contained within the comprehensive whole, the wise person should reflect on the identity of the whole and the parts, prior to the moment of total absorption, while concentrating earnestly in the above manner. With the eyes closed, one should then meditate upon me, the goddess, ruler of the universe. But one should equalize the inhalations and exhalations flowing through the nose, being unaffected by sensual desires, without faults, free from jealousy. With sincere devotion, within the silent void of the heart, one should dissolve the all-pervading gross aspect of the self that is the letter H into the letter R. One should dissolve the luminous subtle aspect of the spirit that is the letter R into the letter I. One should dissolve the intelligent causal aspect of the self that is the letter I into the sound rim. It transcends the distinction of name and named beyond all dualities. It is whole, infinite being, consciousness and bliss. One should meditate on that reality within the flaming light of consciousness. By this meditation, O King, the noble person will perceive me directly, and then merge into my own essence, since we two are one. By practicing this yoga, one realizes me as the Supreme Self. In that instant, ignorance and its effects all perish. Chapter 5. Instruction in the 8-Limbed Serpentine Yoga. Himalaya spoke. O great Queen, describe that yoga with all its limbs which bestows supreme understanding, so that by practicing it I may become fit to see the truth. The goddess spoke. The goal of yoga is not found in the heavens, nor on earth, nor in the underworld, but in the union of the individual soul and the Supreme Self. Thus do skilled adepts define yoga. Impeding the practice of yoga are the obstacles, said to be 6, O faultless one. They are designated as desire and anger, greed and delusion, arrogance and jealousy. Adept yogis use the limbs of yoga to break through these obstacles and to reach the goal of union. Restraint and observance, followed by posture, breath control. Withdrawing the senses, concentration, meditation, and finally absorption. These, they say, are the 8 limbs practiced by adepts in pursuing yoga. Non-injury, truthfulness, non-stealing, abstinence, compassion, humility, patience, steadiness, moderation in eating, and purity. These are the 10 restraints. Austerity, contentment, faith, charity, worshiping the deity. a listening to established truth, shame, understanding, recitation, and sacrifice. These I proclaim as the 10 observances, chief of mountains. The lotus posture, the happiness posture, the auspiciousness posture, as well as the diamond posture, and the hero posture, these in order are renowned as the 5 basic modes of sitting. Duly placing the pure soles of the feet upon the thighs. So one should catch hold of the big toes with one's hands crossed behind the back. Such is the famous lotus pose, beloved by yogas. Duly putting the pure soles of the feet between the thighs and knees. The yogi should sit with body straight, such as deemed the happiness posture. Placing the heels firmly on either side of the perineum. One should use the hands to hold tight the heels of the feet beneath the genitals. Such is the famous auspiciousness posture, well honored by yogas. Placing the feet alongside the outer thighs with fingers cupping the knees. One should firmly fix the hands, such is the unsurpassed diamond posture. Putting one foot under the opposite thigh and the other foot upon the remaining thigh. The yogi should sit with body straight, such as the hero posture. Drawing in the breath through the left artery for 16 counts. The yogi should hold it fully for 64 counts. Restraining it duly in the central artery, then slowly, for 32 counts. The excellent knower of yoga should exhale through the right artery. This is breath control, so say those versed in the treatises on yoga. Again and again, in proper order, one should manipulate the breath. Gradually, as is suitable, one should increase the count from 12 up to 16. When breath control is accompanied by mantric repetition in meditations, the wise regard it as having a matrix. But when breath control is not so accompanied, they regard it as without a matrix. Through repeated practice, one progresses from the lowest level of accomplishment when a person's body begins to perspire. Through the middle level when the body trembles, to the highest level when one levitates, so it is taught. So one should strive constantly until one attains the fruits of the highest level. The senses are wont to feed freely upon the objects of sense. Seizing them back from those objects by force is called withdrawal of the senses. On the toes, ankles, knees, thighs, anus, sexual organ, navel. On the heart, neck, throat, soft palate, and nose. Between the brows, on the head, on the forehead, and on the crown of the head, as prescribed. Concentrating the vital breath on these points is called concentration. Composing the mind and abiding inwardly in pure consciousness. While meditating on one's chosen deity within the self is called meditation. Ever realizing the identity of the individual self and the supreme self. Is absorption, sages avow. The nature of the 8 limbs has thus been described. Now I shall tell you about the excellent mantra yoga. The body is the cosmos, composed of the 5 elements, so it is said, O mountain. It embodies the unity of the soul and Brahman, conjoined with the lustrous essence of the moon, sun, and fire. There are reckoned to be 35 million subtle arteries in the body. Among these, 10 are considered major and 3 are of special significance. The principal one inside the spinal column embodies the moon, sun, and fire. The channel of comfort runs on the left side and shines white, embodying the moon. This artery appears as Shakti herself visibly manifest, embodying the divine ambrosia. The one on the right side is the tawny red channel, male in essence, embodying the sun. Composed of all brilliant light is the most gracious channel, embodying fire. In its middle is the beautiful, variegated channel characterized by will, knowledge, and action. Inside is the self-existent emblem, shining like 10 million suns. Above that is the seed mantra of Maya, which begins with the letters H and R and concludes with the nasal M. Above that is the coiled serpent appearing like a flame, blood red in color. She is said to be the very essence of the goddess, expanding with rapturous passion, O mountain chief. Outside her is the golden, 4-petaled lotus adorned with the letters V to S. One should thus visualize this lotus resembling molten gold. Above that is the 6-petaled lotus resembling fire and radiant like a diamond. Adorned with the 6 letters B to L, this is the excellent Onabodha center. The lowest root center supports all 6 lotuses, and thus is known as the root support center. Regarding the Onabodha center, it is so known since it is the own abode of the supreme emblem. Above that is the brightly shining jewel-filled center in the area of the navel. It is brilliant like a cloud, like a flash of lightning, composed of great luster. The lotus shines like a jewel, so it is called the jeweled lotus. It is endowed with 10 petals, adorned with the letters from D to Phi. Vishnu resides on this lotus so that here one is able to attain a vision of Vishnu. Above that is the lotus of the unstruck sound shining like the stars and sun. Its petals are adorned with the letters from K to Th. In its midst is the emblem of Bana shining like 10,000 suns. This center is composed of Brahman in the form of sound. Therein that sound, though unstruck, is perceived. To thus sages call it the lotus of the unstruck sound. It is the seat of bliss, wherein dwells the Supreme Person. Above that is the 16-petaled lotus known as the unstained. Conjoined with the 16 vowels, it is smoke-colored and highly effulgent. Since the soul here attains purity by seeing the Supreme Self, it is known as the unstained lotus. It is also known as ethereal and exceedingly marvelous. Above that is the command center wherein dwells the Supreme Self. Commands are received there, thus it is called the command center. This lotus is two-petaled, adorned with the letters H and She, and very charming. Above that is the Kailasa center, and above that the blockade center. Thus I have described the supporting centers to you, who are of firm resolve. Above them, it is said, is the seat of the primal point with its lotus of 1,000 petals. And so the entire unexcelled pathway of yoga has been disclosed. First, breathing in with yoga control, one should bring the mind to focus on the root support. There between the anus and the genitals resides the Shakti known as the coiled serpent. Compressing her, one should awaken her. Then one should lead her to the highest center of the primal point by piercing the mystic emblems in order. One should visualize there that Supreme Shakti is united with Shiva. In that union is produced an ambrosial nectar resembling molten red lac, which should be given as a drink to the Shakti Maya, who grants success in yoga, satisfying the presiding deities of the 6 centers by offering them that descending stream of nectar. A wise person will then lead her back by the same path to the root support center. It is certain that by such spiritual practice performed daily, all mantras previously uttered incorrectly will become effective, without fail. One is freed from the bondage of worldly existence with its miseries of old age, death, and the like. Just such qualities as belong to me, the Divine World Mother. Those very qualities will inhere in the accomplished adept, without fail. Thus have I recounted the excellent practice of concentrating the breath, my child. Now listen attentively to me regarding another concentration practice. Fixing the mind upon me as the goddess transcending all space and time, one quickly merges with me through realizing the oneness of the soul and Brahman. But if the mind is impure, one will not succeed at once. Then the yogi should practice the limb dilatation. On my charming limbs, on my hands, feet, and so on, O mountain. The adept well-versed in mantras should focus the mind, mastering each member one by one. With the mind thus purified, the yogi should concentrate upon my whole form, until the mind dissolves into me, the goddess who is divine consciousness, O mountain. The well-versed adept should continue reciting the approved mantra accompanied by sacrificial offerings. Through yoga accompanied by mantra practice, one becomes fit to realize all that is to be known. Mantra without yoga is ineffective. Yoga without mantra is also ineffective. Integrating the two leads to realization of Brahman. As a jar in a darkened house may be seen with a lamp, so may the self concealed by Maya become evident through the mantra. Now I have explained the whole practice of yoga with its limbs. This can be learned only from a teacher's instruction and not from millions of books. Chapter 6. The goal of the yogas, knowledge of Brahman. The goddess spoke. Cultivating the yogas just described, one should meditate on me as the true form of Brahman, with sincere devotion, assuming the proper posture, O king.
It is manifest, well fixed, pervading the hearts of beings. Indeed, it is the great foundation.
Thereupon all that moves, breathes, and blinks is established.
Know that as existent and non-existent, as the most desirable, as supreme, as beyond the understanding of humankind. What is luminous, what is smaller than the small, in which the worlds and their inhabitants are rooted?
That is this imperishable Brahman. It is the life principle, speech and mind. This is the real, the immortal. Know, good sir, that this is what you are to pierce. Taking the great weapon of the Upanishads as the bow, knocked with the arrow honed by meditation. Drawing it with a mind absorbed in contemplating that Brahman. Know, good sir, that imperishable reality is the target. The syllable Om is the bow, while the self is the arrow. Brahman is named as the target. It will be pierced by one who concentrates. One will merge into it like the arrow. In it are woven the sky, earth, and atmosphere, as well as the mind along with all the breaths.
Know it alone as the one self. Let go of other notions, as this is the bridge to immortality.
Where the subtle channels of the body come together, like the spokes in the nave of a wheel, there this self circulates within, manifesting in diverse modes. Meditate on Om as the self. May you fare well in crossing to the far shore beyond darkness. Within the space in the bright city of Brahman, the self is established. Infused by the mind, directing the breaths and body, it abides in material form, taking charge of the heart. By their understanding, the wise recognize this blissful immortal, which shines brightly. The knot of the heart is untied, all doubts are removed, and the binding effects of one's deeds pass away when that self is seen, both the higher and the lower. In the highest golden sheath resides the unstained, indivisible Brahman. It is radiant, the light of lights. That is what self-knowers know.
The sun shines not there, nor the moon and stars, nor do these lightnings shine, much less this fire.
All things shine only after it shines. By its light all this world becomes visible. Just this Brahman is immortal. In front is Brahman, behind is Brahman, on the right and the left. It extends above and below. The whole universe is just this Brahman, the greatest. Whoever realizes Brahman as such is the highest of humans, wholly fulfilled. Merged in Brahman and serene, that one neither grieves nor desires. Oh, a fear surely arises from another. O king, in the absence of another, one does not fear. I am not separate from anyone, nor is anyone separate from me. I indeed am that person, and that person truly is I. Regard this as certain, O mountain. One sees me wherever one finds a person who knows me. I do not abide in any sacred site, not even in Shiva's mountain abode nor in Vishnu's heaven. Yet I dwell in the midst of the lotus heart of one who knows me.
Worshipping just once a person who knows me gives the same fruit as worshipping me millions of times.
One's family is purified, one's mother is completely fulfilled, and the whole earth is blessed when one's heart dissolves into pure consciousness. The knowledge of Brahman that you inquired about, best of mountains, I have described fully. There is nothing more to say. This teaching to an eldest son filled with devotion and of good character, and to a disciple of proper disposition, is to be revealed, but not to anyone else at all. For one who is supremely devoted to God, and to the Guru as to God, for such a noble soul these matters just described become clear. One who teaches this knowledge is indeed the Supreme Lord, whose generosity the disciple can never repay. Greater even than the Father, it is said, is the bestower of birth through spiritual knowledge. For the birth engendered by the Father perishes, but never what is engendered by the teacher. Do no injury to the teacher, so says a sacred precept, O mountain. Thus the religious law concludes that the Guru bestowing spiritual knowledge is supreme. When Shiva is provoked, the Guru can save. When the Guru is provoked, Shiva cannot save. Therefore, O mountain, one should please the holy Guru with all one's effort. Dedicating all one does with body, mind, and speech to the Guru, one should remain thus focused. Otherwise one becomes ungrateful, and there is no expiation for ingratitude. Indra revealed this knowledge to Atharvana, threatening to decapitate him. When Atharvana revealed it to the two Ashvins, Indra cut off his head. Seeing his horse head destroyed, the two Ashvins, excellent divine physicians, restored the sage's original head once again. Thus is the knowledge of Brahman difficult to attain, mountain chief. One who attains it is blessed and completely fulfilled, O mountain. Chapter 7. Instruction in the Yoga of Devotion. Himalaya spoke. Describe the path of devotion that focuses on you, O mother. By such devotion, supreme knowledge easily
develops in the ordinary person filled with passions.
The goddess spoke. Mo. So were three well-known paths of mind leading to liberation, mountain king. The yoga of action, the yoga of knowledge, and the yoga of devotion, my good sir. Of these three, the latter is the easiest to practice in all respects, appealing naturally to the heart without distressing the body or mind. Devotion as practiced by human beings is of three kinds, in accord with the qualities of nature. A person who intends harm to others while engaging in deceit, and who is spiteful and irascible, practices devotion characterized by ignorance. One who intends no harm to others, being concerned simply with personal well-being. Who is ever lustful, seeking fame and seizing pleasures. Who worships me intently for the sake of obtaining this or that fruit. Who foolishly assumes false distinctions, thinking that I am other than one's own being. Such a person practices devotion characterized by passionate yearning, O mountain chief. One who offers all karmic fruits to me, the supreme ruler, in order to be cleansed of evil. Who thinks I must carry out those acts enjoined by the Veda without faltering. Who is thus convinced but who still clings
to false distinctions.
Who performs all work out of a sense of love. Such a person practices devotion characterized by virtue, O mountain. This latter, though still clinging to false distinctions, leads to the highest devotion. But the two former kinds of devotion do not lead to the highest, so it is understood. Now be attentive while I explain the highest kind of devotion. One who constantly listens to my virtues and recites my names. Who is firmly intent on me, a treasury of auspicious qualities. Whose concentration is ever steady like a continuous flow of oil. Who has no ulterior motive at all in these actions. Having no desire for liberation in any form, whether living in my presence, sharing my powers, merging into me, or dwelling in my heaven. Who knows absolutely nothing better than serving me. Cherishing the notion of servant and master, and thus not aspiring even for liberation. Who enthusiastically thinks of me alone with supreme affection. Knowing me truly as never separate from oneself, not acknowledging any difference. Who thinks of beings as embodiments of myself.
Loving other selves as one's own self.
Who makes no false distinctions, realizing the universality of pure consciousness. My omnipresent essence manifested in all beings everywhere at all times. Who honors and respects even the lowest outcast, O Lord, discarding any sense of difference, and thus wishing harm to no one.
Who is eager to see my sacred sites and to see my devotees.
And is eager to listen to scriptures that describe the mantras and rites used in worshiping me, O ruler. Whose heart is overwhelmed with love for me, whose body ever thrills with joy. Whose eyes are filled with tears of love, and whose voice falters. Who, with such enraptured feelings, O mountain chief, worships me as ruler, womb of the world, and cause of all causes. Who performs my splendorous rites, both the regular and the occasional. Always with devotion and without miserly regard for cost. Who longs to see my festivals and to participate in them. Ever impelled by such desires arising spontaneously, O mountain. Who sings on high my names while dancing unself-conscious and forgetful of the body.
Who accepts the fruits of past karma as what must be.
Unconcerned with thoughts of preserving the body. Such a person practices devotion deemed supreme, in which there is no thought of anything except me, the goddess. The person in whom such supreme devotion truly arises, O mountain, then dissolves into my essential nature of pure consciousness. Knowledge is proclaimed as the final goal of devotion, and of dispassion as well, for both devotion and dispassion are fulfilled when knowledge arises. But even when devotion is fully accomplished, O mountain, if one's past karmic influences are not favorable, a person may fail to realize knowledge of me and so will depart to the jeweled island.
Going there, that person encounters enjoyments of all kinds, though remaining indifferent.
And in the end attains complete knowledge of my essence that is pure consciousness, O mountain. Thereby the person is forever liberated. Liberation arises from knowledge and from nothing else. One who attains knowledge here in this world, realizing the inner self abiding in the heart, who is absorbed in my pure consciousness, loses not the vital breaths. Being Brahman, the person who knows Brahman attains Brahman.
An object may vanish through ignorance, like gold forgotten on one's neck.
Through knowledge that destroys the ignorance, one may recover the desired object. To my essence is different from the known and the unknown, O highest mountain. As in a mirror, so is that essence reflected clearly within the embodied self. As in water, so is it reflected indistinctly in the world of ancestors. Just as the distinction between shadow and
light is clear, just so is the knowledge, dispersing any sense of duality that arises in my world.
One who is dispassionate at death but who lacks knowledge will ever dwell in the world of the Creator God Brahma for an entire eon. That person will be reborn in a virtuous and dignified family, and after practicing spiritual discipline, will thereby attain knowledge.
In the course of many births does knowledge arise, O king, not in one.
Therefore with total commitment seek to acquire knowledge. Otherwise it is a great loss, as this human birth is hard to attain. Even if one is born a Brahmin, access to the Vedas is hard to gain. Realizing the 6 virtues beginning with tranquility, achieving success in yoga as well, and finding an excellent teacher, all these are hard to attain in life, as are keen senses and sanctification of the body. To the merit gained in several births, one comes to desire liberation. But even after attaining the fruits of spiritual discipline, the person who does not strive after knowledge squanders the opportunity provided by birth. Therefore, O king, one should strive for knowledge with all one's strength. Then one surely obtains the fruits of the horse sacrifice at every moment. Like clarified butter hidden in milk, knowledge dwells in every being. One should stir continuously, using the mind as the churning stick.
Attaining knowledge, one is wholly fulfilled. This is the purport of the Veda.
I have described everything in brief. What more do you wish to hear? Chapter 8. Further instruction in the Yoga of Devotion. The sacred sites, rites, and festivals of the goddess.
Himalaya spoke.
O ruler of the gods, what sacred dwelling places here on earth should one see? Which ones are preeminent, purifying, and most pleasing to the goddess?
What rites provide satisfaction, and also what festivals? Tell me all about these matters, Mother, whereby a person becomes completely fulfilled.
The goddess spoke. Every site is my dwelling place and worth seeing. All moments are fit for observing rites. And festivals may be held on any occasion, for I pervade all times and places. Yet loving my devotees as I do, I shall be more specific.
Listen attentively to my words, Mountain King.
Kolapuram is a great dwelling place, where Lakshmi ever lives. Matripuram is a second prime abode, where Renuka resides. Tulajapuram is a third, Saptashindri yet another. Hingala is a great dwelling place, and so is Javalamukhi.
There is the prime dwelling place of Shakampari, and the excellent dwelling place of Brahmari.
There is Shri Raktadantika's dwelling place, and Durga's is yet another. The dwelling place of Vindhyakalana is most excellent.
There is Anapanna's great dwelling place, and the unsurpassed Kanchipuram.
There is Bhimadevi's prime dwelling place, and Vimala's dwelling place as well. And the great dwelling place of Sri Chandrala, and Kaushiki's dwelling place too. There is Nilamba's prime dwelling place on the summit of Meet, Nila.
As well as Jambunadeshvara's dwelling place, and the beautiful Srinagara.
Guhya Kali's great dwelling place is established in Nepal, while Meenakshi's supreme dwelling place is in Chidambaram, so it is proclaimed.
Sundari resides in the great dwelling place of Vidaranya.
The Supreme Shakti has established her great dwelling place at Ekambaram.
Mahalasa is a prime dwelling place, and that of Yogeshvari is yet another.
And there is Nila Sarasvati's dwelling place, famous among the Chinese. Bagala's dwelling place in Vidyanatha is considered most excellent. The jeweled island is my abode, where I dwell as the auspicious and glorious Bhuvaneshvari, as tradition affirms. The sacred zone of the goddess's womb at Kamakhya is the site of the auspicious Tripura Bhairavi. It is the best of hallowed places in this earthly realm, and here Mahamaya dwells. There is no better dwelling place on earth than here, where every month the goddess herself resides during her menses. All the deities of that place have assumed the form of mountains. Even the great deities dwell within those mountains. The whole earth there is the very essence of the goddess, so think the wise. There is no better dwelling place than this sacred zone of the womb at Kamakhya.
And Gayatri's prime dwelling place is the auspicious Pushkara, so it is proclaimed.
In Amarisha dwells Chandika, in Prabhasa is Pushkarakshini. In the great dwelling place Naimisha is the Devi Lingadharini.
Purayuta is in Puskaraksha, just as Rati is in Ashadi. In the great dwelling place Chandamindi is Dandini Parameshvari.
In Barabuti dwells Beauty, in Nakula Nakuleshvari. Chandrika is in Harishandra, in Shrigiri is Shankari, according to tradition. In Japyeshvara is Trishula, Sukshma is in Amritakeshvara. Shankari is in Mahakala, Sharvani in the place named Madhyama.
In the hallowed site called Kadara is the Devi Margadayini.
In a place called Bhairava is Bhairavi, in Gaya is Mangala, according to tradition. Stanupriya is in Kurukshetra, and Svayambhuvi in Nakula. In Kanakala dwells Ugra, Vishvesha in Vimaleshvara. In Atahasa is Mahananda, in Mahendra is Mahantaka.
In Bhima, Bhimeshvari is proclaimed to be, in the dwelling place called Vastrapatha. Vavani Shankari is proclaimed, while Rudrani is in Adakotika.
In Avamukta dwells Vishalakshi, Mahabhaga in Mahalaya. In Gokarna dwells Bahadrakarni, Bhadra dwells in Bahadrakarnaka. Tipalakshi is in Suvarnaksha, Stanvisha in a place called Sanu.
In Kamalalaya is Kamala, Prashanda is in Chagalandaka. At Karandala dwells Trisandya, at Makota, Mukuteshvari.
In Mandalesha dwells Shandaki, and Kali at Kalanjara. In Shankukarna, Duvani is proclaimed, Stula dwells in Stulakshvara. In the lotus hearts of the wise dwells Hrileka, the Parameshvari. These places proclaimed above are most dear to the goddess.
First one should listen to the particular virtues of these various sacred sites, highest mountain.
Afterward one should worship the goddess in the prescribed manner. Alternatively, highest mountain, since all sacred sites exist in Kashi. One may wish to live there always, ever absorbed in serving the goddess. By seeing those dwelling places, by reciting the names of the goddess without pause. By meditating on her lotus feet, one becomes freed from bondage. Whoever, arising at dawn, should recite these names of the goddess, burns to ashes all sins instantly, in that very moment, O mountain.
At the time of offerings to the dead, one should recite these holy names in the presence of Brahmins. All one's ancestors will be freed and go to the highest state.
Now I shall describe the rites to you, who are of firm resolve. Both women and men should perform them with diligence. The third day observance called the Rite of Infinite Blessings, along with the Rite of Happiness and Prosperity, and also the rite named the Bestower of Refreshing Bliss, should all be done on the third lunar day. Then, there is the Friday rite, the dark 14th rite,
The Tuesday rite, and the evening rite as well.
In this rite, the god Mahadeva places the goddess on her seat and dances before her, together with the other gods at the beginning of the night. In this rite, a person should fast at dusk and during the evening should worship the auspicious goddess.
It should be observed once each fortnight and is pleasing to the goddess.
There is also the Monday rite, especially dear to me, O mountain. In this rite, one should take food at night after worshiping the goddess. And there are the 2 celebrations of the Rite of 9 Nights, highly pleasing to me. Likewise, O Lord, there are other rites both regular and occasional. Whoever performs these rites unselfishly, just to please me, attains union with me. Such a person is devoted to me, Didu.
One should also celebrate prominent festivals such as the Swing Festival, O Lord. One should perform both the Going to Sleep Festival and the Waking Up Festival.
And one should perform my Chariot Festival and the Jasmine Festival, and likewise the pleasing festival of the Thread Offering in the month of Shravana.
So indeed should my devotee always perform the other great festivals.
One should gladly feed my devotees, and also well-dressed maidens and young boys, regarding them as none other than me.
Without miserly regard for cost, one should worship them with flowers and the like.
Whoever carries out all these acts every year, tirelessly and with devotion,
is blessed and completely fulfilled. Such a person is truly worthy of my favor.
All this that is pleasing to me I have related in brief. Never impart these instructions to one who is not a disciple or devotee. Chapter: Vedic and Internal Forms of Goddess Worship. Himalaya spoke. O Goddess of the gods, great ruler, ocean of compassion, Mother, proclaim now in detail the proper manner of your worship. The goddess spoke. I shall explain the manner of worship, O King, that pleases the Mother. Listen with great reverence, best of mountains. My worship is of 2 kinds, external and internal. The external also is said to be of 2 kinds, Vedic and Tantric. Vedic worship is also of 2 kinds, according to the type of image used, O mountain. The Vedic ritual is to be performed by those initiated into the Vedas. Tantric ritual should be embraced by those initiated into Tantric lore.
One who knows not this mystery regarding worship, and who thus acts in a contrary manner,
such a person behaves foolishly and falls into utter misery. I shall now describe the first kind of Vedic worship mentioned above.
With your own eyes, O mountain, you have already seen that supreme form of mine.
So grand with its countless heads and eyes, its countless feet. Omnipotent, the impeller behind all action, that form beyond all other forms.
One should constantly worship it, bow to it, contemplate and remember it.
Such is that form of mind belonging to the first type of worship, O mountain. Being calm and mentally composed without arrogance or pride, you should become fully focused on that image, adoring it, taking refuge in it alone. Behold it in your mind, invoke it, and contemplate it at all times.
With undistracted devotion and joy, inclining your heart toward me in love. You should worship with sacrificial rites, and satisfy me completely with austerities and gifts.
In this way, through my grace, you shall be freed from the bonds of worldly existence. Those who are fully focused on me, their hearts bound to me, are deemed the best of devotees. I promise to rescue them quickly from this worldly existence, through meditation accompanied by action, or through knowledge accompanied by devotion. One can always reach me, O King, but never through actions by themselves. From righteous action arises devotion, from devotion arises supreme knowledge. Vedic revelation and sacred law are recognized sources of righteous action. Other religious works, it is said, propound merely a reflection of righteous action. From me, omniscient and omnipotent has arisen. Since ignorance is absent in me, Vedic revelation lacks nothing in authority. The works of sacred law issue forth from Vedic revelation, comprehending its meaning. Thus, sacred law like Manu's, as well as Vedic revelation, is regarded as authoritative. In some places on occasion, it is implied that the Tantras constitute another authority. While the Tantras speak of righteous action, they do so only in part, and thus are not relied upon by those initiated into the Vedas. The teachings of other authors are rooted in ignorance. Due to the corrupting defect of ignorance, their statements lack authority. Therefore, one who desires liberation should depend entirely on the Veda with regard to righteous action. For just as a king's command in the world is never ignored, so my own command in the form of Vedic revelation, proclaimed by me, the universal ruler, can hardly be shunned by humans. For the safeguarding of my command, the Brahmin and warrior classes I have created. Thus, one should regard my command embodied in Vedic revelation as the secret of good conduct. Whenever there is a decline in righteousness, O mountain, and a rising up of unrighteousness, then I assume various guises. And related to this are the different fortunes of the gods and the demons, O king. For the sake of teaching those who do not act righteously, I have at all times provided hells, terrifying to anyone who hears about them. Those who abandon Vedic righteousness to follow another path. Such unrighteous persons a king should banish from his lands. Brahmins should not talk with them, the twice-born should not sit with them at meals. The various other religious treatises in this world, which are opposed to Vedic revelation and sacred law, are entirely based on error. The scriptures of the Vamas, Kapalikas, Kalikas, and Bhairavas were composed by Shiva for the sake of delusion, and for no other reason, due to the curses of Daksha, Brig, and Datasha. The most excellent of Brahmins were scorched and exclusively up it from the Vedic path, for the sake of rescuing them step by step at all times. The Shaiva and Vaishnava, the Saura as well as the Shakta, and the Ganapacha scriptures were composed by Shiva. In these there are occasional passages not opposed to the Veda. There is no fault whatsoever in Veda initiates accepting these. But Brahman by all means is not entitled to scriptures having different aims from the Veda. To one who is not entitled to the Veda may be entitled to those other scriptures. Therefore, with wholehearted effort, a Veda initiate should adhere to the Veda. A knowledge assisted by righteous action will reveal the Supreme Brahman. Abandoning all desires, taking refuge in me alone, showing kindness to all beings, leaving behind anger and self-conceit, giving their hearts to me, devoting their life energies to me, delighting in accounts of my sacred places. Thus should renouncers, forest dwellers, householders, and students always with devotion practice that yoga focused on my cosmic majesty. The mental darkness sprung from ignorance of those who are always so absorbed, it shall disperse with the sunlight of knowledge without a doubt. Such, then, is the first form of Vedic worship, O mountain. Described briefly in its essence, here now the second type. Either in an icon, on prepared ground, in the orb of the sun or moon, in water, in a stone known as the emblem of Bana, on a sacred diagram on a cloth, or also in the auspicious lotus of one's own heart, one should meditate on the Supreme Goddess. She is endowed with fine qualities, filled with compassion, youthful, red like the dawn, the quintessence of beauty, lovely in every limb. She is filled with the sentiment of passion and is ever distressed by the sorrows of her devotees. Disposed to kindness, she is the mother bearing a crescent moon in her locks. She holds a news and goad while gesturing her beneficence and assurance of safety. She is bliss incarnate. So one should worship her with such offerings as one can afford, until one is prepared for internal worship. A person should continue to perform this external worship. Only when prepared should one abandon it. The internal worship, according to tradition, comprises dissolution into pure consciousness. Pure consciousness alone, devoid of finitude, is my supreme form. Tulchios, or awareness on my form that is pure consciousness without using any conceptual support. What appears outside this pure consciousness as the world, composed of illusion, is false. Thus, to dispel the world appearance upon the supreme witness in the form of the self, one should meditate without doubts and with a heart disciplined through yoga. Now then I shall describe at length the final type of external worship. Listen with an attentive mind, best of mountains. Chapter 10. The Tantric form of goddess worship and the disappearance of the great goddess. The goddess spoke. Rising at dawn, one should call to mind the radiant lotus on the top of the head, shining like camphor. On that lotus one should recollect the form of one's own blessed guru. kindly disposed, adorned with shining ornaments, conjoined with his consort. The wise person will bow to them, and then calling to mind the coiled serpent goddess, will reflect. As she shines brilliantly in her ascent, she appears like nectar in her descent. I take refuge in that woman who wanders along the middle channel in the form of bliss. Meditating in this manner, focusing on my form as infinite being consciousness and bliss that dwells in the internal flame. So one should meditate on me. Next, one should complete all those rites beginning with personal cleansing. The best of Brahmins should then offer oblations into the sacred fire in order to please me. After the fire offering, one should take a firm seat and resolve to complete the worship ceremony. First, one should purify the material elements within oneself, then install upon the body the maternal powers embedded in the alphabet. One should always install next the maternal powers embedded in the Rilaka mantra. Fix the letter H in the root support center, the letter R in the heart, the letter I between the brows, and install the entire syllable Hrim on the top of the head. So one should then finish all other mystic installations which will be empowered by this mantra. So one should further visualize within the body my sacred throne, with its legs consisting of righteousness and the like. The wise person should then meditate upon the great goddess, visualizing me in the breath expanded lotus of the heart, on my sacred resting place that is the seat of the 5 corpses, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, and Sadashiva. These 5 great corpses reside under my feet. They have the nature of the 5 elements and also the nature of the 5 states of consciousness. But I, in the form of unmanifest consciousness, transcend them altogether. So thus they have come to constitute my throne ever, according to the Tantras of Shakti. After completing the above meditations, one should worship me with mental offerings and practice recitation. So one should surrender the fruits of this recitation to me, the blessed goddess. Then one should prepare the general water offering, setting out next the sprinkling vessel and purifying the materials for worship. So with that water, while intoning the protective missile mantra, the worshipper should secure at once the surrounding space, then bowing to the teacher and receiving the latter's consent, one should focus on the external altar, recalling that divine and pleasing form of mind visualized in the heart. So one should then summon me to that altar using the life-infusing incantation. A seat, an invitation, a respect offering, water for washing the feet and for rinsing the mouth, a bath, a set of clothes, ornaments of all kinds, perfume and flowers, all these as is proper one should present to the goddess, inspired by one's own devotion. One should duly perform the worship of the protective deities abiding in the sacred diagram. What if unable to worship them every day, one should set aside Friday to do so. So one should regard the attendant deities as manifesting the splendor of the chief goddess. And one should consider the whole universe, including the nether regions, as pervaded by her splendor. Again, one should worship the chief goddess accompanied by her surrounding deities, that with perfumes, fragrances, and the like, including sweet-scented flowers, as well as with food and refreshing water, along with spiced betel and various gifts. Then one should please me by reciting the hymn of my 1,000 names that you composed. Recite my protective mantra and my hymn beginning I with the Rudrasas, O Lord, and along with the mantras from the Rilaka Upanishad, otherwise known as the Devyatharva Shiras. With those great mystic spells and great mantras, one should please me again and again. The person whose heart overflows with ecstatic love should seek absolution from the World Mother, trembling with thrills of joy in all limbs, speechless with eyes flooded by tears. So one should please me again and again with the tumultuous sounds of dancing, singing, and other celebrations. So, in the whole of the Vedas and in all the Puranas, I am truly proclaimed, thus by reciting these one will please me. One should offer to me daily all possessions, including the body. Next one should perform the daily fire offering, and then to Brahmins, to well-dressed virgins, to young boys, to the poor, and others, one should give food with the conviction that they are none other than the goddess. One should bow down and then bid her farewell, leading her back again into one's heart. One should perform the whole of my worship with the Hrilaka mantra, O you of firm resolve. The Hrilaka is regarded as the supreme director of all mantras. I am ever reflected in the Hrilaka as in a mirror. Therefore, whatever one gives while reciting the Hrilaka is offered with all mantras. After honoring one's teacher with ornaments and the like, one will attain complete fulfillment. Whoever in such manner worships the goddess, the auspicious world-charming beauty, for that person nothing is difficult to attain anytime, anywhere. Upon leaving the body, that one most certainly will go to my jeweled island. Such a person may be recognized as bearing the form of the goddess herself. The gods constantly bow before that one. Thus, O king, the first have narrated to you the procedures of worship for the great goddess. Consider all this in detail, and in accord with your qualifications. Perform my worship. Thereby you will be wholly fulfilled. One should never utter the teachings of my song to one who is not a disciple, nor should it be given to one who lacks devotion or is deceitful and wicked-hearted. Displaying this publicly is like exposing the breasts of a mother. Therefore, by all means this is to be diligently guarded always. It may be given to an ardent disciple and to an eldest son, so that they are well-behaved, properly dressed, and devoted to the goddess. At the time of offerings to the dead, one should recite this in the presence of Brahmins. All one's ancestors will be satisfied and go to the supreme abode. Vyasa spoke. The glorious one finished her speech, and then vanished from sight. While all the gods rejoiced for having seen the goddess, later she was born to Himalaya as the goddess Hemavati, who would be renowned as Gauri. She was given in marriage to Shiva. Afterward, Skanda was born, who slew Taraka. Earlier, during the churning of the ocean of precious jewels arose, O king. On that occasion the gods, eager to gain prosperity in the form of Lakshmi, praised the goddess. Then, to favor the gods, Lakshmi herself came forth. The gods gave her in marriage to Vishnu, who thereby attained peace of mind. Thus I have recounted to you, O king, this sublime glorification of the goddess, dealing with the births of Gauri and Lakshmi, and granting all desires. Do not reveal this secret mystery that I have narrated to just anyone anywhere. Diligently guard the secret mystery of this song. I have briefly answered all your questions, faultless one. This account is purifying, sanctifying, and divine. What further do you wish to hear?